Welcome back to Wealth Mavericks, the podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And today we're talking about why coaching is such a vital part of our membership.
Stop the autopilot living. Choose to engage and say, am I even going in the direction that I want to go? So our job as coaches is not to provide answers. Our job as coaches is to ask good questions that lead you to your answers.
Welcome back to the podcast. We're so glad you're here. And today I have Joe with me here. And we're going to talk about something that makes Terra Firma different than any other company our members have ever worked with. And that is our coaching. Members join us for the tax strategy and the tax savings, but they stay with us for the growth and the education and the clarity and really just the support they get along the way. So we want to take this quick episode to answer a simple question, Joe. Why do we incorporate coaching as part of our membership?
I'll say in short, because I don't think anything else really matters. And I don't think I'm being terribly dramatic. And I tell, like, when coaches come on, like when we bring new coaches on at Terra Firma, I let them know, like, the work that we're doing goes so far beyond crunching numbers and saving money and building wealth. We're literally saving lives, saving marriages, saving legacies from where most people are careening off the cliff. And so that's why it matters. Because, like, what good does it do to save $1 million on taxes if you lose your family, if you lose your relationship with your loved ones, if you lose your health? And so I think, I'm biased because I've got a 2-decade career in the coaching industry. And so I'm very biased towards coaching. And I have a lot of thoughts around this that I'm sure we'll talk about. But just by and large, it's like, what good does any of this do if you lose that which matters most? And I think if you ask most people, money is important. I'm not denigrating like the value of money, like it supplies the roof over our heads and the food that we eat and the experiences that we get to have. And that's all good. But if it comes at the cost of those other things that truly are more important, then we're failing our members. And so that's why, in short, that's why we have coaching.
And I think it's unexpected for most and it's embraced by most. But then there are a few who are like, I had one today. I had the most amazing onboarding meeting and I brought him to tears a little bit. And he's like, whoa, Aaron, I didn't expect this. Like, we had talked way back at the beginning of the year. And so this was like our first time talking in months. And his wife was on too. And he was just really surprised by how deep we go right away into your values and what's important to you and your biggest goals. So I love that he embraced it, but sometimes people are like, whoa, I didn't expect this.
They just don't expect it.
Yeah. They'll say, well, I want to save on taxes. Why are we talking about, my health and fitness or my spirituality? Like, what the heck? So what would you say to people who might be a little resistant to it in the beginning?
I would say, like, embrace the process. Like, just trust us that, like, the financial services industry by and large is totally void of paying attention to the holistic human being. It's just, and I understand why that's the case. You're like crunching numbers. It's so boring and so rote. But it's easy to miss the forest for the trees. So, for example, we had a member there was a strategy that we recommended to the member, and they're like, I feel like I'll lose sleep over that. And we're like, then don't do it. Like, there's no amount of money that's worth doing something that you're going to lose sleep over if that's truly the case. So that's like most financial services industries. They're just like, just do the right thing, just do this thing, whatever it might be. So I think that, just generally speaking, that's why I would encourage people just to embrace our process. Trust us that we have enough time in this, that we've developed this to serve you as a member. Again, I just keep going back to this concept. Like, what I get most excited about, I love when we get to see the tax savings for people. But when I hear people say, hey, since I started working with you guys, I've lost 25 pounds and I feel finally on the same page as my spouse, that is the kind of thing that will bring me to tears. And I think, when you look at, and I think we've talked about it on this podcast, like the 5 areas that we look at: spiritual, family, business, financial, fitness. And there's some elements that are subjective and there are some that are objective. And so we help you identify, like, truly what's important, that which you want to pursue. And I would say, I brought this up with when I was coaching our coaches the other day. It's like a definition of hell that I've heard is upon your death, meeting the full version of who you could have been.
Ooh.
And I heard someone else say it, we're entering the end of the year, or maybe this is coming out at the beginning of the year, but that's when we do a lot of reflection, like how did last year go, that sort of thing. And I saw a quote that said, where would you be today if you had honored all your commitments this year? And I was like, oh, like there's because there's so much. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I
Wow.
think the coaching really specifically, you don't need a coach for mediocrity. You don't need a coach just to kind of do the norm or what just is par for the course. You don't need a coach for that. So if you want to live a life that is, I'll call it mediocre and just on par for wherever you're like, fine. You don't need coaching. But when I ask most people, do you feel you have untapped potential? 100% of the time, people say, yes, I feel like there's potential that I have not tapped. Great. That's what coaching is for, to help you tap into that potential.
And I've heard you say that what we do on the tax side, especially coming from a holistic perspective, though, it is more complex and it takes team and it takes planning, but it is still black and white. It's numbers, it's things we can put in place. And that's what gets the 6-figure tax savings. So we could just do what we do and charge what we do and not do the coaching, because the coaching is not black and white. It is more gray. You walk in and you don't always know. Like Megan and I just did an episode about that. Like some of our members are thriving, others are going through really hard times. And like we're not therapists, but we are here to help you through these things and walk by your side. So I guess speak to the heart of Terra Firma. Like we don't have to do it, but we do it. So where does that come from?
It's a good point. And really a lot of this comes from my background and what I've seen in the 20 plus years that I've been coaching people. I've seen what's possible. And I think Terra Firma and our coaches gain enough jurisdiction to speak into our members' lives in more than just finances. And yeah, to your point, it is a little bit jarring sometimes when people are like, whoa, why are we talking about spirituality? Like I don't have a faith background or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
And we certainly don't ask people to adopt what we believe. You don't have to believe what we believe to belong here. And the other part of this is my answers are good for me. Your answers are good for you. And our members' answers are good for our members. My answers are not necessarily good for you or our members. So our job as coaches is not to provide answers. Our job as coaches is to ask good questions that lead you to your answers. So yes, that's very time consuming, but it's very rewarding. So to answer your question very directly, I just don't think that I'm going to live long enough to waste time just helping people save money. I want to make a bigger impact. And so
Yeah.
my DNA being brought to Terra Firma has caused this eventuality to happen. And that's where I think, again, that's why I get emotional when I hear coaches talk about, hey, these people are on the brink of divorce and now they're mending their relationship, or this person was catastrophically overweight and now they're feeling in shape. Those small, and I know we talk about this in coaching, but the Kaizen way, one small step can change your future. It doesn't have to be this magnanimous giant effort in each area. It's what's that subtle shift, that 1 degree change that will get you back on course. So the long made short is I brought this DNA to Terra Firma, and I think it's going to have the biggest lasting legacy impact for most of our members.
And it truly feels like such an honor to be in that position and have them trust us, have our members trust us so quickly to share these types of things with us. And I've been doing the end of year one and, kind of scoring yourself for the whole year. And I mentioned this on the last one, but like this question of if we were to talk a year from now and this was the best year, what would have happened? What would you tell me? And I think just helping them put themselves in that place and then holding them accountable to do the little things that it takes to get there and make yourself proud. It's just such an honor. So, but
Yeah.
before we wrap up, can you share maybe a story or anecdote with me? Because I hear them from you all the time. You're not involved with all of our members, but some of the elite, elite level practice owners, I can think of one in particular, who you text with him and he is just so grateful for what you've been able to do in his life. Like, what was his life before Terra Firma and what is it now?
Well, I would say generally speaking, it is a very special relationship that a coach holds with his or her members. And so sometimes that happens like on the calls, sometimes that happens after the calls. And it's,
Mhm.
for me, very particularly, I pray every morning for those members that I do get to work with. And I will tell you this, I have no freaking clue how prayer works. I just know that it works. And so my job, in my world is just to lift these people up. And so I don't know about like the full nature of like how his life was before, but for example, like taking time to really think about these things. I'll answer your question directly in a moment, but I want to go a little bit roundabout because I think this is more important than a specific anecdote. Most of us live our lives on autopilot. Like a gigantic chunk of our life is lived on autopilot. And I feel like the coach's job is to remove autopilot and say, wake up, there's a mountain right in front of you, better pull up right now. And I, I'm not going to curse on this episode because Kenny doesn't need an explicit, but it's like, I feel like sometimes like as coaches, we're the only MFer who's going to call you out on your BS. I just think that's such a special case where it's like, hey, you're careening off the cliff. You're heading right into the mountain. Pull up or you're going to experience catastrophic change in your world. So I think that's kind of a special environment. So, members who are out of shape and it's just like, hey, buddy, like wake up. Like, what are you going to do? You can change this one small step. So I think the member that you're talking to in particular, I'll text him from time to time and I get the most lovely text messages back. Like, it's like, I just think most people are not being thought of outside of like the time that they're spending with people. So like messages like, I know God put you in my life for my encouragement. You like, and I love this guy to death. Like I so many of our members have such a special place in my heart. And
No.
that's why I'm lifting them up. That's why I do these things. But like starting to date his daughters again, where it's like the conversation specifically we had is like, date your daughter like the world is trying to rip them from your hands because it is. So it's like, how do you do that? So it's like putting these plans in place where it's like, okay, that's one small step. I can take my daughter on a date and treat her like the queen that she is and show her what it means to be loved by a man who cares for her.
Mhm.
Simple things like that. So you start like just multiply that impact over the course of months or years and it just will change. But I think more importantly, again, is stop the autopilot living. Like choose to engage and say, am I even going in the direction that I want to go?
Thank you for sharing. And just this idea of, because I think you talk about careening off a cliff or just heading toward disaster. It's not always like that, but sometimes even worse is just, like you said, getting to the end of a month or a year, or God forbid, your career or your life, and looking back and be like, what was it all for? Where did
Yeah.
it all go? How did I spend my most precious years? And it is just getting that clarity and that awareness to kind of shake them up and being like, wow, no one's ever talked to me like this before. And so even if the few who are like a little weary or leery or resistant in the beginning, even them, like winning them over to this is so powerful, so fun. So Doc, what we hope you take from this episode is that we just care a lot. We've talked in previous episodes about how what we're doing is new and different and we're like pioneers, but it's so worth the effort that our members and us are putting in to create this new way of doing things. That yes, it's very important to not hand over 40% of your earnings to the government each year. But on top of that, it is so important to have a good partner alongside you as you live more intentionally. So if you're not a member with us and we enter this new year, now's the time. Like, we would love to care for you and walk alongside you. So, Joe, thank you for everything you shared. And Doc, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you here again. And until then, go be a wealth maverick.